All right, well, it seems to be working. So how we gonna do it? I know you guys, nobody can hear this. All right, we'll see if this is working. So instead of me recording this for all the folks that aren't here, we can go ahead and do it live so I can answer whatever questions. We're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and what's the other one? YouTube. So we're going to spark a discussion about investing in apartment buildings. I know a lot of people don't know what it is to invest in apartment buildings, and a lot of people think it's harder than it actually is. And I guess that goes without saying with everything else. If you don't know how to do it, just like long division, it can be as hard as you may be able to imagine. What is that saying? All right, hold on one second. Yeah, it's we'll see. We'll see. All right. How do you invest in an apartment building? First of all, I've got to that's not I need to get that brighter. Hold on one second. All right, hold on. Y'all bear with me. I'm trying to get this get the TikTok thing brighter. It's not TikTok, it's my phone. All right. So what is an apartment building? An apartment building is considered anything over 5 units. And there are apartment buildings that are less expensive than single family homes. So I need to get this. I need to clear this thing off my screen. This is really gonna mess with me. All right, there you go. How do I get that out of there? Oh, there we go. All right. Look, just somebody's dad trying to figure this out. So investing in apartment buildings, what does that look like? So if I'm investing in an apartment building, they're more favorable because they are hold on, hold on. It's my old boy. Hold on. What's up, dog?
What up, Jack?
I'm on I'm you on, boy. You on. Look, you on. You live.
Okay. Let me let you do your thing, though.
Go ahead. It's all good, man. Hit me when you get back to the crib. Hey, I saw your podcast today. It was dope.
Okay, appreciate you, bro.
Winning real estate, man. I'm telling you, y'all killing the game out there.
Hey, I'm trying to, man.
Right on. All right. I'll catch up with you when you get on.
Okay.
All right. Shout out to Anthony Glenn, Bruno Nascimento, and Ian Jensen down my winning real estate family down in Southern California. So apartment building. So if I want to invest in an apartment building, there's 5 units. Let me turn this background music down. 5 units and above. Anything below that is considered multifamily residential. So you have single family homes that are single family. You have multifamily residential, which is duplex, triplex, fourplex, and then you have multifamily commercial, which is 5 units or above. Why do I gravitate towards multifamily commercial? First, let me give you my background. I am a licensed real estate broker in California, licensed real estate broker in Georgia. I've been exposed to real estate. I come from a real estate family. I've been exposed my entire life. I was 3 years old going to real estate meetings with my father. I am 49 now. I spent the better part of 20 years in the multifamily commercial industry. I'm licensed in insurance. I had a national notary signing agent company. I took $585 one day, went and created a company that had nothing to do with real estate that went on to generate 7 figures. I've made 7 figures actually investing in real estate, which is a very small amount, by the way. I've made 7 figures teaching it. I've made 7 figures outside of real estate. And we're looking to scale up in just about all three, right? Including on the entrepreneurial side. I'm licensed in insurance. No, I am not in the insurance business, but because I use it to, I borrow against insurance policies to finance real estate, and so I can speak intelligently about it. I went ahead and got licensed. But again, I'm not in the insurance business. What's up, Chisani? I see you. So I get a lot of questions about investing in apartment buildings because people think that it's so out of their reach, and it really is not. You really just got to understand how it works. I've also consulted on development projects, multiple projects, domestic and abroad, and I've consulted in projects. Well, I've sat in some foreign governments' offices to consult on projects. So it is in my DNA. I'm a long-term hold investor. I think in the last 18 months, I've probably exited out of 5 deals. I wish I could do more, but I'm also the founder of this logo right here, 4 Data Points Academy. So a lot of my time is spent mentoring new real estate investors that become intermediate real estate investors, and some of my real estate family is actually pretty advanced now. I've got people in my real estate family that I've trained that they're pushing 30 doors. So why apartment buildings? It's the easiest thing to add value to. And if you don't know how it works, it goes like this. If I buy a house in 123 Main Street, America, the goal is to buy the house for one price, make it worth more than I bought it for. And then once I do that, I've got some choices. The choice is sell it, or the choice is keep it. Because I'm a real estate investor, the type of financing that we typically use is asset based lending. Asset based lending is a type of financing where they qualify you primarily on the equity in the property or the income that it generates, or a combination of both, depending on what mortgage product you are utilizing. Now, the goal is I'm a value add investor, by the way. So when they say value add investors, it's just as I explained. We buy stuff, make it worth more than we bought it for, and then we either leverage that. By leverage that, we take a loan against it to buy more cash flowing assets and keep the property, or we sell it. If I'm selling a property, 9 times out of 10, I'm selling it for a larger cash flowing asset. So everybody talking about generational wealth, flips are great. I teach people how to flip. That's more of a starting point for us. Flipping properties will wear you down and exhaust you over time. But if you're talking about generational wealth, how are you going to attain generational wealth if you keep selling everything? So, that being said, my heart is with apartment buildings. And my goal for what's up, Kaleem? My goal is to take all of my real estate family, and even the ones that are brand new, and scale them up to apartment buildings. It's just a natural progression of investing. And because the Four Data Points Academy doesn't have an end date, they stay with me for as long as it takes. And so that's my vision for all of them. So let me first say apartment buildings are valued based on the income they generate. Okay. So, the example that I was given before. Okay, so let's say I buy a house on 123 Main Street, anywhere in the United States, and let's say that house is in a neighborhood where homes are selling for 300,000 in good condition. It doesn't matter how much of a discount I get on that house. I am still limited by what similar properties are selling for. So, even if I buy the house at $100,000, put another $50,000 into it, now it's worth 300. I'm still limited. Apartment buildings are valued based on the income that they generate, primarily the net operating income that they generate. We all know what NOI means. We know what net operating income is. You remember your first job and you did that calculation of how much your first check was going to be. You knew how much you got an hour, and then you had the number on the top, and you were really excited. And then all them taxes and everything came out, and the number on the bottom was what you net. Suddenly, it wasn't so glamorous. Same thing with apartment buildings. An apartment building's value is the net operating income divided by the cap rate in that area. Now, what's a cap rate? A cap rate is a percentage that represents the relationship between a building's net operating income and its market value. If a building sold for 300,000, let's say that's the market value because that's what it sold for. And it had a net operating income of 30,000. 30,000 divided by 300,000 is 10%. That is the cap rate. You take the average cap rate in the area and you apply that percentage to your subject property to determine its value. For example, if my 10-unit apartment building, the one that I'm consider buying, has a net operating income of $28,800 a year, that's the income minus all the expenses at the end of the year, and the cap rate in the area is 6.5%. 28,800 divided by 0.065 is $443,077. I'm not good at math. I just use that same example all the time, so I got it memorized. But that's a good illustration of what a cap rate actually is. All right. And I want to encourage people to start looking at apartment buildings, because if the building is valued based on the income that it generates, well, what's the driver behind that income? It's rents, right? It's rents. So if rents continue to go up over time, as many of you have seen that they have, then what do you think happens to the value of the building? And the more the value of the building increases, the more times you can pull money out of that building to buy another cash flowing asset. What happens when you have an abundance of cash flowing assets? You get checks in the mail. As soon as that cash flow that shows up in your mail exceeds your monthly expenses, you are now wealthy. A lot of people think wealth is just being rich. Wealth is the number of months that you can go based on your current situation and without you having to actively work without losing your quality of life. All right. So if I look at all of the resources that I have right now, I look what I got in the bank. If I stopped working right now, if I didn't do anything, how many months could I go without impacting my quality of life? If my expenses are exceeded by my monthly cash flow, then guess what? I'm wealthy and I can just coast in perpetuity. All right. So when we're buying these apartment buildings, that's the goal, right? That's the goal. So we manage rents, and I'm a multifamily operator. I was overseeing $650 million in multifamily commercial assets at one time. I love the multifamily commercial industry. I would have stayed in it. It just didn't make any more sense for me to be there because even though I was paid really well, at one point it was only about 12% of my income. So I had to roll out. All right. So, oh, Dr. Leslie, hold on. I'm gonna invite y'all on TikTok to go ahead and come up. Dr. Leslie, I know I gotta call you back too, because I saw your missed call on my phone. All right. There she is. There she is. And all y'all can come up. All y'all can come up. What's going on, Dr. Leslie?
Hi, can you see my
Lady.
picture?
I do. I do. I like that. Is that a new one?
No, do you see me?
I see your picture.
Okay, cool.
Are you trying
Hi.
you trying to put your camera on?
No, I'm not in a position to put my camera on.
Come on, Dr. Leslie. Throw that
I
camera.
accepted without. I was like, I just accepted. Can they see me?
No, but hold on. I could turn your camera on remotely. Hold on one second.
No, I don't want my camera on.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
Oh, okay.
I be joking. When we teach the classes in the evenings, we'll have about 20 or 30 people in some of these classes. And I told them, I said, and no one has their cameras on. Bruno, you better jump on this TikTok, young brother. Come on, jump on this TikTok, Bruno, and get up here. So I have a class. It may be 20, 30 people in the class. And one time we were no one has there's mostly women in that particular class, and no one has their cameras on after 5. So I told them, I was like, look, I can go ahead, I'm gonna go ahead and turn on you guys' cameras remotely. And I was just joking because I thought everybody knows you can't do that on Zoom. And somebody ran, and I could hear him like fall over a couch or something. So anyway, so we talk about multifamily commercial investing and its advantages and how it's attainable for the average person, which is, I spend most of my time trying to convince people that it's attainable, but they don't believe me. But you're more than welcome to stay up here, Dr. Leslie. If you have any questions, just go ahead and wait a minute. What we got going on in August? We pushed it to August, right?
Yes.
And what do we got going on?
Oh, thank you for giving me a shout out.
Come on now. It's important.
It is. We have the Men's Suffer 2, the men's retreat coming up August 7th through 10th in Bethesda, Maryland.
Yes.
We had it last year and it was a phenomenal outcome.
Yes.
So we increased the number of attendees, and we are inviting all men, even if you have kids, adolescents like 18 or older, can come with you if you want to make it a father-son event. But we have a lot of events planned, and everything's included, but the hotel, if you want to, can I give them the website?
Yeah, please do. Come on now.
If you're interested, we have several people sign up already. We do still have space. If you're interested, go to www.mensuffer2too.com, mensuffer2too.com, and check it out. And again, I would love to have you there. If you want to give someone a gift.
Yes.
We're gonna be talking about mental health and how it impacts men. We're talking about we're gonna go over coping skills, and also I have special guests that are come. An attorney is going to come and talk about estate building, and I think that's really important for men and around mental health and finances, and etc. So yes, come.
Absolutely, I'm gonna be there. So you already know I'm gonna be there, but I'm gonna be there. I was at the last one and it was really, really good. And we need to have. We're gonna have a podcast just about the Men Suffer Too in the next week or two because nobody cares about us. Let's just call it what it is. Don't nobody care about us, man.
That's not true. Yes, we do. That's why I'm doing this.
I know. I'm just flying. So we're gonna talk about a lot of issues that we go through there, and it was, I knew it was going to be good the first time, but I was very surprised in how good it actually was, and how good I felt when it was over. So I appreciate you, Dr. Leslie. Look at there's
Thank
people on like Bruno on Facebook said facts. No one cares about us. They do. They do.
Oh,
Dr. Leslie
no.
cares about us, and some
I
other people
sure
care
do.
about us. So
So come and allow me to show you how much I care. Show up at the retreat.
amen. Amen. All right. Well, stick around long as you can. If you got any questions, feel free. Is that a Colonel? Is it Colonel Panic? Is that it? What's going on, sir?
Colonel Panic.
What's going on, Colonel Panic?
Yeah, it's a geek thing.
That's all right, man. I'm part geek too, man. What's going on with you today?
Oh my god.
I'm
Not much. I want to know where that conference is at though.
it's in Bethesda, Maryland.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay, that's not too bad.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Bethesda, Maryland, and the website is www.mensuffer2too.com. It's well worth it, man. Well worth it. So if you can make it out
And I'll
there,
tell you guys the prices.
Sure, I put it on my phone already.
The
amen.
price is $397. I know you guys like to know about the price. So the price is $397. I reduced it significantly because I really do want you guys to attend. It's for you all. So I'm trying to make it affordable. $397, guys. $397.
Amen. Amen. And thank you, Dr. Leslie. And for those that just tuned in, that's the Men Suffer 2 conference going on. And what are the dates? Tell them the dates, Dr. Leslie.
August 7th through 10th
Mhm.
of this year, 2025, 7th through 10th in Bethesda, Maryland,
Yes.
in August.
Amen. We're going to sell out. So y'all better jump on that. But we're going to do a show just surrounding that. But we're talking about, yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. One of the things that we stress over is finances, right? We protect and provide. It's just built in, it's embedded into our programming as men. We protect and provide. And a lot of people just think that's limited to, if somebody breaks in the house, I'll take care of it. Absolutely not. We have this is my own opinion. I have a financial responsibility to take care of my family and put them in a position to where they are never in danger. And that also means living in a neighborhood where they're safe and protected, and anything else that involves putting them in a better position financially. So I'll be there. I'll be talking about real estate there and a couple other things. And so I hope you guys really, really show up and show out. Thank you, Dr. Leslie. All right. Colonel Panic. I'm talking about apartment buildings tonight. Would you like to own one?
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. What's keeping you from
You
it?
got one?
Wait a minute.
What's
Wait a minute. Hold on. I recognize that damn
I
voice.
don't think I've reached that point in my my journey yet.
I recognize that damn voice. Is this who is this?
Oh, come on, man.
I thought it was. What's up,
It's
man?
Colleen.
I know it's Kaleem. I was like, wait a minute. I hear this voice a lot. So shout out to Kaleem. He's in my real estate family. And how long you been with us, Kaleem?
Oh man, 2.5 years, I think.
All right. You got your first deal already, but how's that going?
I did. Yes, I'm finishing that up now.
Amen. So, and when you need help, can you call me?
Of course. Oh yeah, man. Y'all, Otis helped me and a friend yesterday. Well, he helped my friend. My friend had a problem, and I told him Otis was the man. And we scheduled some time with Otis, and he hooked us up. So my boy's got some marching orders.
Yes.
He's carrying those out to
Yes.
help out his parents,
Yes.
who are actually the real people being helped in this matter.
Yeah.
So thank you, Otis.
That's what's up, man.
Uh,
That's what's up. That's part of our real estate family. So 4 Data Points Academy. I mentor about 300, just over 350 people personally. And I take full responsibility for their success, not in a way that it sounds. I just hold myself accountable for their success. So we don't have an end date. So Kaleem got started with us. He already got his first deal. He's already dealing with all the headaches of real estate investing. But he's going to be riding with us until right until dot dot dot. We don't have an end date, so I appreciate you, Colleen. Thanks for tuning in, man. If you have any questions, stick around. I know you always got good questions, so stick around as long as you need to. Amen.
Thank you.
All right.
Amen.
So let's talk about apartment buildings. All right, let's yeah. One of the benefits of apartment buildings is the revenue streams. You can add a bunch of different revenue streams to apartment buildings. And anybody that wants to come up on stage on TikTok, feel free. Just go ahead and I'll bring you up if you want to ask questions or whatever. The revenue stream. So if I have a single family home or a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex, and let's say let's say it's a fourplex, all right? Let's say a fourplex, and the fourplex next door sold for 300,000. The fourplex down the street sold for 300,000. What's up, Jamisha? And the fourplex, let's say a fourplex around the corner sold for 325,000. If I sell my fourplex, it's probably going to sell for about the same. So my fourplex is worth what similar properties are selling for. Because remember, 1 to 4 units valued based on what similar properties are selling for. Now, let's say I've got 4 tenants in this fourplex. I'm getting $1,000 a unit. That's $4,000. That does not impact what the building is worth, at least not directly. Now, let's say I have some other revenue streams. Let's say I got Wi-Fi and I charge them for, Wi-Fi, make a little money on that. Maybe they got extra pets, right? So I charge them pet rent, right? A little more money coming in there. Let's say I've got some parking going on and I charge for additional parking. None of that stuff impacts the value of the building. Now, let's say that was a 5-unit apartment building, right? Even if I was only making $4,000 a month on that apartment building, 5 units, right? Let's say I'm making $4,000 a month. The building is valued based on the income that it generates. So if I'm making, hold on one second. About to come. I'm about to get barged in on by this 3-year-old walking around with diplomatic immunity. If I'm buying a 5-unit apartment building and it makes $4,000 a month, and then I start adding additional revenue streams, the value of the building goes up. Because remember, come here, buddy. All right, bring it in here. We have an emergency, folks. We have an emergency.
Your boy needs some batteries in the toy.
My 3-year-old's tablet just died. It ran out of. So he's requesting. He's requesting we stop the live stream. Everybody did tune out. That is the most important thing on the planet right now. All right. So if I have a 5-unit apartment building and it's getting $4,000 a month, and I start adding these revenue streams, it increases the value of the building because it ultimately increases the net operating income of the building. And it's not just, oh, okay. All right. Oh, okay. What's up, buddy? All right. Okay. All right. Here, kiddo, you want to, you can charge this in the bedroom. All right. All right. There you go. All right. Thank you. All right. My 10-year-old and 3-year-old. All right. So the more revenue streams that I bring into this apartment building, the more it's worth. Another good thing is because we're talking about the net operating income of the building, it's not just increasing rents and adding revenue streams that impact the value of the building. It's also reducing expenses. So if I reduce the expenses, even if the rents don't change, the net operating income increases because net operating income is gross minus expenses. All right. Now, it's not something that I would recommend somebody just jump into without any training or without a mentor, right? I know how overwhelming apartment buildings can be, all right? I know how overwhelming real estate, period, can be. So what I'll typically do is if somebody is interested in apartment buildings and they have a real estate transaction over the horizon, meaning they have one that they're interested in, one, I show them how to underwrite it, and typically I'll just do it with them, right? We want to figure out what the building is worth now, and we want to figure out what the building can be worth. So how do we figure out what the building is worth now? We look at their financials, or at least whatever financials are available to us. Now, until you actually get in contract, which means until you put an offer in and it gets accepted. And by the way, folks, I'm talking under 50 units. Okay. I'm not talking about, 200, 300 units. You're dealing with, you're competing with investors and people that are very well capitalized, institutional financing involved typically. We don't, at least not yet. Right. And I don't have a desire to. Now, let me see, where was I? I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, no, not in here, buddy. Thank you. Go potty. All right. You don't have to keep closing the door. Thank you. He'll close that door 27 times in a row. All right. All right. Shout out to my little man. And every time he does it, I lose my train of thought. All right. Where was I? Okay. So when we're evaluating apartment buildings, and I have one of my students that are, thinking about putting in an offer, the first thing we do is figure out how much it's worth. So we give our best guess, and they may have some basic financials that they have available to the general public that may be interested. So we try to drill down the financials until we can figure out what the current net operating income is, and we research what the cap rate is in that area, and we just do the formula. Net operating income divided by the cap rate equals value, and then we negotiate based on that. Now, we also have to figure out what it's going to be worth. Now, remember, 4 Data Points Academy, every investment that we consider, it doesn't matter if it's a studio condo, doesn't matter if it's a 2,000 unit development, doesn't matter if it's a freaking tree house, that whatever it is, we ask 4 questions. Those questions are: what does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? You have to master those 4 questions. I have a guide for that. You guys reach out to me. I'll make sure you get it. You can get it on our website, 4datapoints.com. But what does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? The reason we ask those 4 questions is for new investors, it's going to force you to uncover information that you wouldn't have known to ask about. It's also going to show what the deal really is. It's going to show you how much money you're going to have to leave into the deal. It's going to show you whether it makes a better flip or makes a better long-term hold. It's going to show you a bunch of things. So I typically walk people through the 4 Data Points on these deals. Now, we look at an apartment building and we say, okay, it's making X amount of dollars a month. We can give a percentage of what we think the expenses are going to be. And then we take the cap rate, we do the formula, net operating income divided by cap rate is the value. Then we negotiate based on that value. Now, let me stop there for a second. Negotiating multifamily commercial is not like negotiating a single family home. Okay. It gets a lot more complicated. And a lot of the protections that are available to the general public in the 1 to 4 unit space, especially with respect to the disclosures that people are obligated to give you, they are not in the multifamily commercial space. Because the federal government says, look, if you want to jump off the porch and play with the big dogs, you better know what you're doing. All right. Better know what you're doing. Anybody on TikTok, you guys want to come up, feel free. If you got any questions, just go ahead and request the invite, and I'll go ahead and bring you up. So that being the case, once we figure out what a property is worth, then we have to figure out what the apartment building is going to be worth when we're done. Okay. So we figure out what it's worth now for negotiating purposes, but before we put in an offer, we have to figure out what it's going to be worth when we're done. Okay. And this is done by analyzing the 4 Data Points. What does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when we're done? How much income can it generate? Now, so we determine the value. Now we've got to determine how much we can make it worth. Well, how do we do that? We look at what the potential rent or the market rent is in the area. And then we take that market rent, and the same percentage we use to figure out what our expenses were going to be on the purchase is the same percentage we use when we're trying to figure out what it's going to be worth. For example, when I'm figuring out what an apartment building is worth now, I'll probably say, depending on the building, 35 to 45%. I'll just automatically put that in for expenses. Then when I figure out what it's going to be worth based on market rents, I'll use the same percentage that I use for the first calculation. Okay. Now, once I figure out what it's going to be worth, then all I do is figure out what is it going to cost to get me there. Data point number 2, right? Remember, what does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? Right? An apartment building, let's say I have an apartment building that's for sale for $400,000, and I do the calculations, and regular market rent once I do that calculation and pull those market rents in, let's say the building's going to be worth $1 million after, right? Well, the average person's going to get pretty excited about that. Well, shoot, I'm buying an apartment building for $400, and based on these calculations, it's going to be worth $1 million when I'm finished. I'm all in. Great. What if it costs you $500,000 to get it to the condition where you can get market rent for it? A lot of people don't understand. Okay, a lot of people don't understand that. But I didn't want to do this live stream. That stuff can get a little bit complicated. You guys that are looking to get into apartment buildings, you want to join our real estate family, I'll walk you through from start to finish and hold your hand through the process. Now, let's talk about what people don't realize and some of the mistakes that people make when they start investing in apartment buildings. And by the way, I don't care what you've seen on the internet. I don't care what you've seen on TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is. Your first deal is not going to be $1 million. Anybody that tells you that is trying to sell you something. But what I can do is teach you how to underwrite your own deal so you can understand what the outcome is going to be. And then you'll be able to determine what it's going to take to get to a deal that's $1 million. Amen? All right. So I want to talk about one of the biggest mistakes that people have made. Okay. And I always say that you will either pay for a mentor or you will pay as a result of not having one. Now, this is an example of somebody paying as a result of not having a mentor. So I was very impressed. They did a lot right. And this wasn't one of my students. This was an associate of mine. So they actually ran the 4 data points, right? Because that's free to the general public. You don't even have to contact me to get that. They downloaded the guide. They ran the 4 data points. They bought an apartment building, relatively inexpensive. I think they paid about $230,000 for the building. They were following my live streams and because I teach all this stuff all the time for free, right? So they were following that stuff, and they did the proper inspections. They did a detailed scope of work for the improvements. They were able to calculate what it was going to be worth when they were done, but they overlooked one very, very important component. When you improve a building over 50%, all right, let me see. Sorry. When you improve a building over 50%, I got 12 windows up. I got Instagram, TikTok. I've got people pinging me on all of these things, so I'm trying to rearrange. All right. So when you improve a building over 50%, then it triggers what you call a substantial renovation. Okay. Substantial renovation is just another way of saying when you improve the building to a certain degree, now you're responsible for all of the fire safety stuff. All of the fire safety stuff. But they didn't know that. They didn't budget for that. And that stuff can be very, very expensive. So they ended up having to, they called me for advice, and this was a long-term hold for them. So I basically showed them how to, bring together their circle of influence, put some additional debt on the property and have it paid off long-term. It wouldn't be short-term, it'd be long-term. And so they were able to make it through, right? But what triggers the requirement is a few things. Okay. And it can be different depending on where you live. All right. Now, just to recap, this person did a lot right. They went in, they saw the building, they had it inspected, they looked at all the things that needed to be done, they checked for the big 5, right? They had the electrical inspected, they had the plumbing inspected, they had the roof inspected, they had the foundation inspected, they had the HVAC. They had estimates on what it was going to cost to fix all of these things, estimates from different vendors. So they were doing what they were supposed to be doing, but they forgot that one thing. When you improve the building to a certain degree, now you're responsible for fire safety. And there's a few things that trigger that. One is substantial renovation, right? That'll trigger it. And basically, if you are going to improve the building and you're replacing or upgrading major systems, you're gutting units and you're modifying structural components, or you're changing the use or occupancy classification, like if you're converting commercial into residential, right? Multifamily residential or multifamily, what do you call it? When you're changing the use is what I'm trying to say. That'll trigger it. Or if the value of the renovation is significant relative to what you bought the building for. All right. So the value of renovation relative to the building value. So if you buy a building for $200,000 and you're putting $400,000 into it, that's going to trigger it. And let me just give you an idea of what this stuff costs. I did some research on a property in LA, right? Los Angeles. And this is just fire. This is just fire safety. Okay. Fire sprinkler system, 25,000, 80,000. Water main upgrade, 10,000 to 50,000. Right. A lot of this depends on the size of the building too, by the way. Fire pump, if needed, 15,000 to 40,000. Fire alarm system, 15,000 to 40,000. Fire rated doors, $500 to $1,200 per door. Fire rated drywall, $3 to $70 per square foot. Stairwell upgrades. Oh, by the way, if it's 3 stories, it didn't matter. You're doing the fire safety stuff. Stairwell upgrades, $10,000 to $25,000. Exit signs and lighting, $150 to $300 a unit. Smoke detectors, you're gonna have to do smoke detectors regardless. Fire dampers, $500 to $1,200 per. Electrical panel upgrades, $10,000 to $20,000. Plan review and permits, $3,000 to $10,000. Inspection and testing, $1,000 to $3,000. I know I just rattled off a bunch of prices, but let me just sum it up by saying this. This person was going to have to spend $140,000 to $370,000 that they did not budget for, just because they're doing these, just because of how much they were renovating the apartment building. So they had the renovations, they had estimates for all of that, but they didn't tie it together with fire safety. Now, there's in real estate investing, you have to look at everything, right? You have to look at absolutely everything. And I had 2 lots right next to each other. And what I was going to do, yes. This is my son knocking on the door. What's up, buddy? No, I'm not going to open. You got to go with your sister. Thank you. It's chaos out there. All right, so I've got 2 lots, and I was going to. I have 2 lots, and we were building. I wanted to do multifamily commercial, but instead of doing it right away, I wanted to do 4 units on one side, and then I wanted to do a fourplex on the other side, and then I wanted to combine the lots to make it 8 units. And I don't know, that conversation probably lasted for about 4 minutes when I was talking through it with my business partner. And and the reason why I wanted to do that is because a fourplex is limited by what similar fourplexes are selling for. The value is limited, even if we put additional revenue streams. So if we did 2 fourplexes and then combined them, now we got 8 units. That's multifamily commercial. We can get it spot zone, and we're off to the races, right? It makes it way more valuable. Now, we were looking at the cost to build, and the cost to build in this particular area was going to be about 450 to 500,000 for a fourplex for both of them. All right. So once I had a meeting with the building department and told them what I was going to do. And the purpose of the meeting, we had some watershed issues that we had to deal with, because there was a creek across the street and down a bit. And they they told me, "Hey, look, as soon as if we approve it, we combine it. Now you have to go back and you have to upgrade all the fire safety." And I knew that there was going to have to be some fire safety components to it. And by the way, all of the things that I rattled off, you may not need all of those, right? But those are all of the things possible that you may have to encounter during, your fire safety upgrades. And it ended up being cost prohibitive. So now we're just doing, 2 fourplexes. We're going to keep the lots separate, different parcel numbers. So it's as a real estate investor, every time you hear a good thing, it's always offset by a bad thing, right? So you have to look at everything. And it's my job to teach you how to weigh the good and the bad. And you can determine whether the good is good enough to offset the bad, or the bad is bad enough to offset the good. And you can make an informed decision. So there's a lot of things about apartment buildings that you have to understand beyond just buying the apartment building, fixing it up, and then renting it out. I've seen a lot of people, I've seen seasoned investors file for bankruptcy because they were caught in some of these, these things that happen in the multifamily commercial space. All right. There's a lot we can control. We control the controllables, plan contingencies for the things we can't control. But there's a lot of outside factors that impact apartment investing also. All right. Now, we talk about structuring deals creatively and acquiring real estate and paying out of your exit strategy. You can do that with apartment buildings also, but it's nuanced, right? Anytime you guys hear somebody say, you can get a I can show you how to buy a house for $500, or I can show you how to, or I can show you how to buy a house for $1, or whatever it is. First of all, understand just because you can buy something for cheap doesn't mean it's a good investment. All right. Paying out of your exit strategy does work with apartment buildings, and what that means is you run the 4 data points on the apartment building to see if it's even worth your while. What's up, Jonathan? If it is worth your while, you negotiate getting your name on the deed before you have to pay for it. Then you incorporate the appropriate documentation to protect that seller, who after that is going to be your lender. Then you add value because you now own the building. You just haven't paid for it yet. You borrow funds to fix it up, make it worth more than you bought it for. And then you exit. And out of your exit, that's when you pay the seller. And you're probably going to pay some compensation on top of what you agreed to pay the seller, or you would have to work some compensation in there. Otherwise, why not? Why don't they just sell it on the open market, right? So we do teach people how to buy these apartment building situations with little to no capital up front, but I always manage people's expectations. Now, just because something is possible does not mean it's likely, right? Just because something is possible does not mean it's likely. I can teach you how to buy a $20 million development with little to no capital out of pocket. But just because you can do the mechanics of the deal does not mean somebody is willing to sell it to you, or does not mean that somebody is willing to work with you. So when you guys are, scrolling TikTok and you see all of the ads that say, if I could do my first deal again, I would do 1,000 units. No, you wouldn't, because you would have did it on your first deal. All right. Now, managing expectations. When you're talking about apartment buildings, a lot of people don't understand what goes into it. We already established that. But a lot of people don't even understand how to inspect an apartment building. So let's go over some of the inspections, right? And I broke this down. I've got my core inspections. I've got fire and life safety inspections. Then we got specialized inspections. We've got environmental and code compliance inspections, and so on. So I'm going to go over them so you guys can just get an understanding. You don't have to know it. I just want you to get an understanding of the possible things that you would have to inspect and how many inspections there are. The baseline must-have inspections when you are inspecting an apartment building. You got to do a general inspection. That's a high-level review of structure, major systems, interior, exterior. That's the first inspection. You are going to do that. You are going to do that. Okay. Now, there are ways around that, but you better be a seasoned investor, and you better have relationships with specific vendors. And I don't recommend going forward without that. All right. So, general inspection, roof inspection, foundation, structural engineer, electrical system inspection, plumbing inspection, HVAC inspection. Those are the absolute must-haves, right? Must-haves. And just to give you an idea, I have a group of people, and we went in on a commercial building in Texas, and the contractor that was touring with us and that had agreed to go ahead and do the improvements we wanted said, yeah, they gave us a price. They say, yeah, and it was we were only going to add like a couple units. It was a mixed use, office space and residential. And this is like just prior to all of the interest rates going up over it. Or I think the interest rates went up like 4 times consecutively, right? So we had a situation where I had my architect and a structural engineer come out to the property. And it was determined that the first floor was not built to have another floor on top of it. The contractor disagreed. The contractor said, yes, no, we can do it. We can do it. Excuse me. So I said, okay, now we got a decision to make. Do we go ahead and have the contractor do it? No, because there is an enormous amount of liability, right? In this situation, in order to protect the group against losses, I assumed all the risk on this property, 100% of it. And I put them in a debt position. So they're just getting a return out of the profits, right? So they're not going to lose. They're limited to whatever they invest in. I think on average, it was like 8,000 a person. There was a couple that did more than that, but it wasn't that much. And my structural engineer said, we inspected the actual beams, and he was like, no, I don't think so. Right. So we ended up not, and had to do the entire rehab plan over. And it went from 120,000 to almost 500,000, give or take, right? Depending. So we had to stop, come up with a different plan. And long term, we had to add more units and things like that, which interest rates started going up. And it was one problem after the next, right? I still have it. I've been carrying this property for a few years, and I'm in well over 100,000, and we've made no progress on this. Well, we made a little progress, but we've had to change business models and a bunch of other things. So that was something that we couldn't, there was nothing. I had a choice to make. I could be safe, or I could risk it and go ahead and do it, and that's just too much risk. If somebody gets hurt, that's on me. All right. So I chose to be safe, and I took the expensive route. All right. But some of these things were revealed in subsequent inspections. So again, your core inspections on an apartment building, even if it's 5 units or 50 units, general property inspection, you're going to do a roof inspection, a foundation, structural engineer. Those are kind of the same thing. They're not the same thing, but you would have those done at the same time. Electrical, plumbing, HVAC. Okay. For fire and life safety, you're doing the fire safety inspection, and that it assesses egress, fire doors, extinguishers, alarms, sprinkler readiness. That stuff is not cheap, right? Fire sprinkler system inspection, fire alarm system inspection, and then asbestos lead paint inspection. That kind of goes with it, right? Fire safety and life safety can get very, very expensive. All right. And then you have specialized inspections, sewer scope, right? So we stick a camera down the main line to see, if there's any issues on a 50 unit building. That main line can be, $25,000 replacement. We do pest and termite inspections, mold inspections, chimney inspections, elevator inspection if it applies. If it's in California, radon inspection. But again, those are more specialized. Then you have environmental inspections, environmental phase one assessment, zoning code compliance review, permit violation history review. Then you have some optional ones. I'm not going to get into insurance inspections and things like that, but insurance, ADA compliance, energy audit, all of these inspections are possible inspections that you may have to do on an apartment building. So why do I say all this? Because it's not just about, hey, I can buy that 5 unit apartment building for less than, a duplex in some areas. So why not do it? Well, because it could get really, really expensive if you don't know what you're doing. It's not just about buying it, fixing it up, getting it leased, and starting to collect rent checks. All right. So hopefully that was helpful. Okay. And again, the whole purpose of this is because I get what do you call it? I'll invite some of you guys up here if you want to jump up here. TikTok. I get a lot of questions about, send these invites out there, about apartment buildings. And it's not as simple as people think. I make it sound simple because I've been involved in apartment buildings for so long. As a matter of fact, when it comes to the operational side, which I'm gonna get into next, we'll wrap up in about 10 minutes. I'm gonna get to next. Um, I was responsible for doing budgets for some of these assets, right? I was doing budgets. I was north of $50 million, right? So basically, a budget on one of these development projects. What's up, Jonathan? What's going on, brother?
Yeah, what up, man? How you doing?
Good, man. Good. So I was doing budgets on some of these development projects. I had to do it every year. So I had to account for all of the income and all the expenses. And on some of these properties, the expenses were, $13 million a year. And I had to account for every dollar of that. Right. So just keep that in mind when you guys are looking at jumping into apartment buildings. I think everybody should. And it gets easier. If you have a mentor, it really does. It's not rocket science. And again, I was overseeing $650 million in multifamily commercial assets. Jonathan, where you from, man?
I'm here in New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
I probably wouldn't get no apartment building in New Jersey, Jonathan.
Yeah, man. I've been I follow you for a long time now since Clubhouse days during COVID, man. So you popped up on the TikTok real quick, so I had to follow you again.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. You ever thought of investing outside of New Jersey?
Yeah, definitely, because like New Jersey is a little pricey, so like cash flow kind of sucks unless you get a really great deal here. Um, I did a little bit of like wholesaling like 2 years ago, but it wasn't really for me because it just took up too much of my time, and it was just like a lot of um a lot of things to do. So like now I'm circling back around the block and just trying to find a different approach where I don't have to do that and I can invest just straight up, whether I do, like a fix and flip buy and hold type of strategy. I live near like Pennsylvania too. So
Yeah.
like I know like, PAs are like an hour away. So that's like the closest market to me where it's like more affordable. But I'm definitely interested in investing, somewhere else where I could get cash flow. That's like my main objective. I can get some, a good cash flow.
Yeah, yeah. I tell people, look, and I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I was overseeing 3,000 units out here at one time, and I used to tell people you couldn't give me an apartment building in California, Washington, Oregon, New York, or New Jersey, and I live here. I would not. You it have to be. It's too tenant friendly, man. It's
And
way too.
yeah, and the landlord laws over here it favors the tenants more than the landlord. So I don't want to get caught up in that crossfire either because I see it happen all the time over here. Like you go to court, bro, try to fight an eviction, whatever it may be. That thing lasts like 6, 7, 8 months.
Look, man, I've been to court 37 times. 37 times. I've never lost in court, by the way. I cut somebody some slack one of those times, but I had them dead to rights. But they were a family, and they were just trying to survive. So
Mhm.
I didn't, I don't want to do that. But uh, you're right. It's too tenant friendly, and they put things. I'll give you an example of how tenant friendly it is. Every shout out to Bruno Nascimento. So Bruno says, "Do you inspect each unit individually?" Yes, not in the beginning, but ultimately I do. And if I can't inspect units individually, I'll make sure that the property inspection that they go through every single unit. But before we close, I will physically go in. I'm sorry, not before we close. Before the inspection period expires in the contract, I will physically walk in every single unit. Matter of fact, in the multifamily commercial industry, when the company was buying another like a 300 unit apartment complex, they sent about 30 of us over there, and we would do due diligence, and we would walk every single unit, check the financials. So I teach people how to do that, how to check the financials. So Jonathan, I was saying, what was I saying, Jonathan?
I don't know. Maybe some cool
Hey,
things.
look, I've been with my son all day. You get real scatterbrained.
Nah, it's
So
all good.
so these inspections and these inspections can run you about $4,000, right? And that's one of the things that I want to explain to people. Just because you can acquire a piece of real estate for little to no money does not mean it's free, and does not mean that there aren't other costs, right? Just the appraisal on a 15 unit apartment building could run you $2,000, right? And it can oh wait, hold on, what did he say? You were going to give an example of tenant friendly circumstance. Oh, thank you, Bruno. Look, Bruno in the building. So yeah, this is how tenant friendly. Bruno, why aren't you up here on TikTok? Where are you at, man? um so during COVID, the Governor Newsom, shout out to Governor Newsom. I don't know him personally, so I don't agree with his policies. I will say that. I'm not saying he's a bad person, but I don't agree with hardly anything that he does. I don't believe he's running California the way that I would like to see it ran. I think we're going to turn California red again. But during COVID, there was an eviction moratorium in March. So from March 2020, April, May, June, July, August, September, you couldn't take anybody to eviction court. Nobody, right? So there was a moratorium on evictions. So fast forward from March to September, okay? Now they're saying, okay, that balance due from March to September, people don't have to just pay it once we start getting back into the swing of things. They gave them until January 31st of the following year to pay the balance. And even worse than that, they only had to pay 25% of it. So, shout out to Gavin Newsom. I hope maybe he's trying, but there was no moratorium on mortgages. So those mom and pop landlords, what are they going to do? They're going to carry the mortgage for 6 months, and they're responsible for the expenses. So they're not just carrying the mortgage, they're carrying the insurance, they're managing service requests because they still got to maintain the building, and a lot of people went out of business. California and California, Washington, New York, New Jersey, Oregon. I wouldn't invest in multifamily commercial there. That's not where I want to be a landlord. All right. I'm gonna start getting a hot flash because I'm starting to get bad. But me, I was working for an organization. I was at the corporate level, and luckily, the organization was big enough to be able to absorb all of that. But you guys, it's buyer beware out there. You guys really got to understand what you're doing in the multifamily space. But now, so let's say you do buy a multifamily apartment building. Okay, let's say you do, and for the most part, there's certain aspects you can figure out, right? You can figure out. If you're not a multifamily operator, then acquiring the real estate is just the first part. You've got to have systems in place. You've got to have, and this really goes for all landlords, okay? Whether it's a multifamily commercial building, a fourplex, or a single family home, all right? Okay, there we go. Or a single family home. Now, you've got to have a screening system in place. And where a lot of people go wrong is they want the property leased so bad because you're like, look, it's been vacant. First of all, if you weren't managing vacancy right, vacancy is the result of mismanagement. Now, vacancy is going to happen at some point in time, right? But if it's extended for a long time, that means you as a landlord, you're not responding to it the correct way. So let's talk about the systems that you need to have in place when you're managing real estate. And let's talk about how to manage vacancy first. You got to have a system for managing vacancy. Now, I always credit the multifamily commercial industry. I met some really great people, some smart people. I work for a number of companies in that industry, from Essex Property Trust, Alliance Residential, Greystar, the largest multifamily operator in the country, Carmel Partners, Lennar Multifamily Communities, BRE before they got absorbed. So, the better part of 20 years I spent in the multifamily commercial industry. And what I did was I just took their best practices, every company, the things that worked the best, and I just adopted those. So one of those things is the way they manage vacancy, and they have a process called the 4Ps. And anytime I get one of my students that calls me and says, hey, I got to get this property leased, we address the 4Ps. You guys in our real estate family, if you're seeing this, the landlord launchpad guide is the one that is the lesson that you guys are familiar with. So I have a whole guide within our program that I give to people, and I walk them through managing real estate. So, hey, Gloria. So the first 4Ps stands for product, promotion, person, price. Product, promotion, person, price. You could address those in any order as long as you leave price last. Okay. Let's talk about the product. Is your product showing well? Right. Remember, we're talking about managing vacancy. Right. Is the product showing well? Right. Person. Is the person responsible for getting the property leased doing what they're supposed to be doing? For example, are they posting on the platforms? Hold on one second. All right. Sorry about that. Come in here. Come in here. You gonna be a good boy? You want to come in? Did she hit you? You want me to give her a pow pow? Okay. Okay. I'm gonna go get my belt. I'm gonna give her a pow pow. Okay. Okay. Thank you for telling me. All right. I'll see you later. Go give him a gummy. In over the dog food. All right, go get a gummy, okay? Thank you. You gonna be okay? Boy, be mad. Boy. He'd be like, "Yeah, give her pow pow. I'm trying to teach you compassion, bro." Like, most of the time, he's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not going. No, don't give her pow pow." All right, so the 4 Ps, right? So the product is a product showing the way it needs to be, right? Is it clean? Is it show ready? The second thing is the person. Is the person responsible for getting the product leased? Is working from home, man. He been coming here all day. Is the person responsible for getting the product leased doing what they're supposed to be doing? And I'll give you an example. I had a property out of state, and it wasn't really showing up on my financials to where I was too busy to really pay attention to it. So this is on me, right? The property it stayed vacant for 8 months, and the huh? You want to go with daddy? Okay. Can you give me like 5 minutes? Okay, I'll come out there in just 5 minutes. Okay. Okay, no 5 minutes. You want it now? Okay. All right. So give me a little bit. Go watch TV and I'll come over there, okay? Thank you. So this property laid vacant for 8 months. And I finally just happened to look into it, and I trained at this point, I trained managers to manage developments valued in the hundreds of millions of dollars. This is just one house in some part of the country, right? So I called the property manager, and it was this young lady, this young sister. And I have an enormous amount of patience because in the corporate environment, once you get to the corporate level or any position of leadership, you have to always be the bigger person and always have an enormous amount of patience. So I had to train this young lady in how to manage this single family home. And I told her, I said, look, you guys need to contact me when this thing is not getting any responses. We have to be able to make adjustments. And if I don't know that there's an adjustment that needs to be made, then I'm in the dark. So I told her, I explained the 4 Ps to her. We ended up actually having to reduce the price. I told her where to advertise, right? On the West Coast, Craigslist is the #1 lead source for apartments, hands down. Like, it's not even close. Like, I think apartments.com was like a distant second last time I looked. All right. So, oh, come on up. I invite everybody up. Y'all can come on up. Um, so, you know, it just stayed. They were okay with just letting it stay vacant. And by the way, um, there's no one that is going to want your property taken care of more than you do, right? But long story short, after having this discussion with her and giving her some instruction, the property leased in, I think it was 10 days. We had it leased. So I basically just went over the 4 Ps, but she was the person, the second P for person. So it was the product. The product was showing right. It was showing well. The person, she wasn't doing what she was supposed to be doing. Right. Now it's promotion. That's the third P. Are you promoting it to the right mediums? Right. Like, are you putting it on Craigslist or apartments.com or whatever the #1 lead source, whatever that is for your area. And, they were not. Right. So I did the ad, showed them how to put it on Craigslist, told them they had to repost it so many times. Property was leased in 10 days. So the 4 Ps to cure vacancy: product, promotion, person, price. Always address price last, because 9 times out of 10, if you address the first three, you won't have to adjust the price. All right. So anyway, that's the first thing. That's how you cure vacancy. Right. Now let's talk about the systems you have to have in place. Now, I don't care if you're just renting out a 1 bedroom condo, or renting out. You can bring them in here. You can come in. A 1 bedroom condo, or you're renting out, 1,000 units. Right. You got to have systems in place. The most important system is going to be your screening process. How are you evaluating people to come into your to lease your units? And most people that I talk to, and I go to these meetings, and I'm 100% real estate all the time, right? Everywhere I go, just about. And I hear people talking, and I heard one person say, "You know what? What I do when someone's coming to uh, lease one of my units." I love working from home, man. When somebody wants to lease one of my units, I look at their car. If they don't keep their car clean, then they're not going to keep my unit clean. That's not even legal, right? Not only is that dumb, it's not even legal. All right. But I hear stuff like that all the time. So your screening process, the safest way to go is have a general screening process that applies to everybody across the board and screen people in the order that they applied. Okay. So let's say that I'm physically at one of these properties and I'm getting the property leased, which I haven't done in a very long time. I usually have somebody else doing that. But if I'm doing an open house to lease the unit, people come in, I provide them a link to apply. Excuse me. I don't deal in paper now because I can track when they apply, right? And I do it, if one person applies, I process that application very, very quickly and then I go to the next one, right? So what I'll do is, let's say I'm actually on site at one of these properties, but let's say it's one of my homes somewhere and I'm getting it leased. If I'm doing it and I do actually have paper, I will have an application and I'll have the screening criteria stapled to the application, right? And when people turn in applications, let's say they complete it right there, I stamp it, right? And I process it in the order that it was received. And if they don't qualify, I give them an explanation, and I'll typically also give them an explanation in writing. Right now, again, I just mentioned I don't use paper a lot, so we're a little more advanced now. We shouldn't be handing people applications, but what I'll do is I may have an iPad set up. They can actually apply right there, and if they don't qualify based on a preset criteria that I already have for everybody, then it'll automatically send them an explanation of why, and I'm removed from the process. Right. So the screening process is very, very important. Okay. Now, let's assume somebody moves in, somebody qualifies, and somebody moves in. There's other things that I get into on the screening with respect to compliance, but that's a master class for a whole nother time. Let's say that person actually moves in now. Okay. So they're there. Now I got to have a system for service requests, for managing service requests. And you want to manage service requests as quickly as possible. Why? Because you want to be a good landlord. It's getting dark in here. Hold on. Let me see. It's getting dark in here. All right. You want to be a good landlord. There we go. Oh, there we go. Let me see here. See if we can brighten that up for y'all. All right. I don't know what I did. I don't think I did anything, but it felt right. All right, so they move in now. You got to have a process for managing service requests. Now, what I'll do is I'll have a system online where they can put in a service request, and I'll already have a maintenance person in that area that manages those service requests. And what I'll do is I'll have the maintenance person go take a picture beforehand, and then I'll have the maintenance person go. I'm sorry, they're already there. Once they complete the job, they'll take a picture afterwards. Some landlords will say, "Hey, just go pay to get it fixed and just take it off the rent." Okay. Well, what if a garbage disposal needs to be replaced? And they go into Home Depot and they buy a $350 garbage disposal. They're not going to be that much. So let's say $200 garbage disposal. All right. And they send you the receipt. Do you just take it off the rent? Absolutely not. I don't operate like that. They could buy it from Home Depot and then return it. And the garbage disposal was never messed up in the first place. So I don't do that. Right. So be careful when you're doing that. And if you manage an apartment building 5 units or above, because all of your expenses tie into the value of the building, then it can be far more detrimental in the long term to allow people to do that. Right. So you got to have a situation in place to where you manage service requests so you stay in compliance and you offer good customer service. There's landlord software that what's up, Shay? There's landlord software that you can use to manage service requests. All right. Now they're living there. They manage. They are okay. They're living there. You've got your system for managing service requests. Let's say they got a year tenancy, right? They're going to be there a year. You also have to have a system for renewals. Right? Got to have a system for renewals. So this is my system for renewals. Day one, they move in on a year lease, 4 months before their renewal happens. I'll just reach out to them. I'll say, or their potential renewal, because there's no guarantee. 4 months before their lease is set to expire. So 4 months, I'll say, hey, just checking in with you. Wanted to see if there's any, any issues that need to be resolved. How's everything going? If they say everything's fine, fine, move on. All right. 60 days before their lease expires, I'll send them a renewal letter, and I'll also send them a rental analysis of the area. Right. A rental analysis I'll typically do on rentometer.com. And what it does is basically just shows what similar units are going for. And I always keep it just below market. Okay. Now, once I give them that, I also have the renewal letter on top of that. Now, the renewal options are going to be different depending on asset class. Now, if it's a 10-unit apartment building, I don't want all the leases expiring at the same time, and I don't want a bunch of leases expiring in Q4 and Q1. All right. So what I'll do is I'll offer incentives to make the new lease expire outside of those times. I may allow one or maybe two to expire during those times, but I'll offer incentives. For example, I'll say, let's say the lease is going to expire in December. Well, if they renew for a year, it's going to expire again in December. Why don't I want it expiring in December? Because that's typically when rents go down due to seasonality. All right. So what I'll do is I'll say, hey, look, if you do an 8-month lease, right? You do an 8-month lease, I'll offer an incentive. Right? And that incentive can be, financial. It could be in the lease. It could be having the carpet steamed. It could be whatever it is, right? I can offer some incentive just so I can stagger the leases out. Okay. So you got to have a system for renewals. Right? Make sure you do market surveys before you send a renewal letter. If they move out, economic principle of substitution, what can they get for the same price? You've got to be aware of that because you don't want to price yourself out of the market. Okay. And this is the mistake that a lot of beginners make. They're trying to increase the rents and they figure, look, I'll increase the rent, let's say $50 over market. No one's going to move out over $50. But what if they do? Maybe you don't go $50 over market. Matter of fact, let me not use that example. Let's say the rent is $700 and maybe you've made some improvements to the property. Maybe property taxes have gone up. Maybe your insurance premiums have gone up. So rightfully so, you should want to increase the rent to compensate. But how much do you increase the rent? I don't necessarily bring it all the way up to market, right? It also depends on how close they already are to market. But I'd rather just increase it a little bit, right? Just a little bit, because if I increase it too much and they move out, now I got to deal with vacancy loss. And if I deal with vacancy loss, now I got to turn the unit for the next person. So that's going to be a much larger expense. So you have to manage that, right? You have to manage that. Now you have and I can, that's a whole master class on its own again, right? So now you got a system for managing renewals. You got a system for your pricing, okay? And this is one that everybody overlooks. This next one everybody overlooks. Deposit accounting. You got to have a system in place for deposit accounting. What happens when people move out? You have to do some accounting for their deposit, okay? This is how I do deposit accounting. There's something called the useful life of a thing. Let's take carpet. I depreciate carpet at 20% a year, okay? What that means is I deduct 20% of the carpet's value if I have to replace it, or the responsibility of the tenant if I have to replace it. I'll give you an example. So it depreciates over 5 years. So in year 1, if they completely destroy the carpet and I got to replace it, they're responsible for 80% of it. Okay. Year 2, if they completely destroy it and I got to replace it, they're responsible for 60%. Year 3, they're responsible for 40%. Year 4, they're responsible for 20%. Year 5, they're not responsible for anything because the useful life of the carpet has expired. Okay. So I do that with carpet. I do that with paint. I'll do that with appliances, right? The useful life of appliances is a little longer than that, but I make sure to disclose that in the beginning, and we both agree, right? So there's no surprises. Right? Also with the appliances, if they're new, I make sure that I have the warranties and I give them the warranty information. If anything happens to the appliances, they can call on the warranty themselves and they can coordinate. It's no sweat for me, right? So you've got to have a deposit accounting system in place. With that, you also have to have a system for maintaining the property during the tenancy. So you may want to do an inspection maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. It depends on where you are. Okay. You don't want to do it every quarter. All right. That's a lot. I know some people say it's okay. Would you want somebody inspecting your property, your unit every quarter? Probably not. Right. But you got to have a system for maintaining that. Right. For example, if let's say there's a family and the kid keeps damaging the blinds, it's no problem. Put in a service request. I'll go in, have the blinds fixed. There's going to be a charge for the materials and there's a charge for the labor. And the labor is billed per hour. Okay. And blinds, I'll chalk up 1 hour to it, right? And I will send them an invoice from that, an invoice for that. Okay. Now, when you start charging folks that live in your properties, there is statute in place that tells you what you can charge for, what you can't, and what you can evict for, what you can't. In most of the places that I've managed, you cannot. Why not just put hardwood floors versus carpet? You're right. I don't use carpet anymore. I was just using that as an example. But you would do the same thing for the hardwood floors. You would do. You would depreciate it. So yeah, actually, is that? Oh, okay. All right. Is that Keisha? What's up? What's up, Keisha? Yeah, so you would depreciate hardwood floors, not hardwood. I wouldn't recommend doing hardwood. I would recommend, and I know you meant hard surface flooring. So I do luxury waterproof vinyl plank, and depending on what the use is for the unit, if I'm doing transitional housing or helping the homeless and the neighborhood, then I'll have different levels of hard surface flooring that I use. But it'll always be new. It'll always be clean. But thank you for bringing that up. So you got to have all of these systems in place. And again, landlord launchpad, that's the guide. I did a whole workshop on that. I'll get into some of this stuff April 12th. We got a free workshop coming. All right. Now, one of the we talked about deposit accounting. I know I was just getting in, it slipped my mind. I know I was just getting ready to get into another system. But let's jump to evictions, right? No, let me see. Okay, no, let's go back to deposit accounting. So understanding the useful life for the different things in the apartment or in the unit, so that you can account for normal wear and tear. Because I tell you, if you go in front of a judge and they're you better have your stuff in order and your documentation in order, right? And you better be able to prove that the whatever is in dispute, whether it's flooring or whether it's paint, whatever it is, an appliance, that it was new when they moved in. All right. Now, so let's I want to stay on deposit accounting just a little more. Now, again, this is a deposit accounting process also involves a pre-move out inspection. So there's a move out inspection and a pre-move out inspection. So what I'll do with a pre-move out inspection is basically inspect it about 30 days before they move out. It could be 30 days, it could be 2 weeks, and let them know what the charges would be if they were to move out right now, because you want to give them an opportunity to fix it. You don't want to just charge them for everything. And me as a landlord, I'm not really money driven anyway. I'm more do the right thing driven. So I don't really, if it's close, if I see that they made an effort, I'll just give them the money back. I'm not really. I want to be able to sleep at night, right? So if I see if they made an effort, even if it's not clean to my standards, if I see they made an effort, then I'll go ahead and give them the money back. But you got to have a system in place, okay? So again, part of that system is a pre-move out inspection, give them an opportunity to fix some things, right? And then you have a final move out inspection, which is typically done after they move out. You go and draft an itemized list of everything that needs to be fixed, what it costs to do it, all attach the invoices and the receipts or any documentation, and then I will send it to them within 21 days. If it's in a state that they have limits on how long you can, how many days you can go without sending their deposit. So depending on where it is, I'll stay within that limit, and I'll give them an itemized list so they can't really dispute it. All right. So work on your system for deposit accounting. Now, a system for evictions. It's another system. How do you evict somebody? Let me see. Soft Soul Goddess invites you to co-host. I don't even know what that. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. I don't know what I would be co-hosting. Or maybe she would co-host. All right, I don't know. All right, David Hayes in the building. Hey, folks, and I'll continue inviting you guys up. You guys can. I just don't know if somebody wants to come up and can't or whatever. But I see you guys are listening, so feel free to come up and ask questions. Now, when I do my evictions, um, I will just outsource that to an eviction attorney in the area, and it's not going to cost you all that much. What up, James? James over on Instagram. It's not going to cost you all that much, but it also depends on where you live. And I've got to determine, is it worth my time to go ahead and go down to the courthouse and do all that, or is it not? All right. I did I went to I had a all right, I had a property in South Carolina, and I had to evict the tenant. And this particular tenant, what's up, Shay? This particular tenant hadn't paid me rent in 8 months. Now, I also inherited this tenant because when I bought the property, the previous owner had a VA loan on it, and they wanted to use it again. So I got the property at a discount, and they said, "Hey, I'll just promise me you'll take care of their tenant. This tenant, they got some issues going on. Just promise me you'll take care of them for 6 months." So I said, "Okay, I'll do that." So 6 months in, mind you, the market rent for this place was about $1,900 a month. This tenant was paying $1,000 a month. So 6 months in, I said, "Hey, look," I talked to her and kind of, I knew she couldn't afford market rent. So I said, "All right, I'll raise it to 1375." The mortgage was 1140, so I think I was going to be all in about 1250. 1375, and I'm like, "All right, it is what it is." All right. Now, because the property's 1 to 4 unit and it's valued based on what some of the properties are selling for, I was able to do a cash out refinance, pull some money out to do some other things. So at the end of the day, I was okay with leaving it at 1375. Now, it got to the point where she even stopped paying that. Now, this particular tenant had what's up, Festus? This particular tenant had medical issues that were very, very serious. So when she stopped paying the 1375, I was trying to work with her. She was trying to get help from different programs, and I was sending documentation to help her out. And she was trying to apply for Section 8, and I had agreed to fly from California to South Carolina to take a 6-hour Section 8 class to help this lady. Now, mind you, $600 for that would have been $600 for the flight, $900 for the hotel. I'm not staying at the Howard Johnson, y'all. Car rental, and then the time. My time is more valuable, but I was willing to do that for this lady. And so the Section 8 people, it ended up she wasn't going to qualify for it, and so I ended up not having to go. Okay. Now, 1 month she doesn't pay rent. 2 months, no rent. 3 months doesn't pay rent. 5 months, no rent. 6 months, no rent. 8 months, no rent. Okay. So I'm asking her, "Hey, what's the problem?" This is what triggered it. This is what made me do the eviction. Because again, as long as it wasn't hurting me, I could have, I could have went maybe a couple more months, right? Now, I'm not going to carry her in perpetuity, but I can win, her kids they got my email somehow, and they told me that I was a greedy landlord and I wasn't right for how I was treating their mother. Now, mind you, I didn't she hadn't paid me rent in 8 or 9 months, and I wasn't like on her every day. I would, go, and it just really didn't show up on my financials. I'm too busy, but every time I was reminded, I'd check in with her. So I didn't know if she had told her kids to do that or not, but it pissed me off. I filed for eviction. Right, that's what made me file for eviction. Hired an eviction attorney. The eviction attorney only cost me $300. 300. I didn't even have to go. Right, $300. Right now, an eviction in the San Francisco Bay Area, and this is if you don't have to go to trial. Right, $1,200. In Kansas, $600. Right, so it depends on where you live. But I ended up actually flying out to South Carolina because I wanted to I had never seen this property before. It was my property. I had never seen it. I never saw it when I bought it. So this was going to be the first time that I was seeing it. So I had to go out there anyway. And I went to the property and I had to take an inventory of what was going to have to be done. Now, this is a real estate investing lesson. When you inherit tenants, okay? When you inherit tenants that have been there for a while, you have to factor in what it costs to get the unit turned so that you can have a new tenant come in there. In this case, it was $24,000. $24,000 for me to get this house back to the way it needed, right? So that's something we got to take into consideration. Sometimes those things just happen, but you do have to take into account these things when you inherit tenants and all these other things. So when one of my students comes to me and we're looking at a situation, and again, I have to be prepared to help them through any situation. Our 4 Data Points Academy, it's not just, hey, I teach you how to invest in real estate and tell you to go be great. I get personally involved when I need to get involved to help them navigate through whatever it is. I do not care what it is, whatever it is, no matter how difficult, no matter how good, no matter how bad. Right? So we look at all these things, and those are one of the things that we have to weigh in when it comes to whether or not we want to buy an asset, right? So you got to have a system in place for evictions. I recommend just outsourcing it. Okay. Now, as you guys can see, I got a 3-year-old out there walking around with diplomatic immunity. So I got to go on daddy duty. But if you go to our website, go to upcoming events, we've got a free workshop on April 12th. All right. April 12th, we got a free workshop, 9 a.m. California time. It's only 2 minutes. We'll teach you how to invest. We're going to get into some apartment building stuff and a few other things. But, and I hope to see you guys there. And it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. By the way, just because something's free doesn't mean there's no value. All right. All right. I had to talk myself to death. Any questions from anywhere? Any questions from anywhere? All right. I'm going to send an invite to everybody on TikTok. Come up if you want. No need to come out. Oh, James, come up if you want. No need to come up if you don't want to. But just so you can ask questions. And if you're trolling, it better be funny. All right. All right. All right. All right. I'll give it a couple seconds for folks to come up. If they want to come up, is that all right? Who do we have? Who do we have? Who do we have? Who do we have?
Hey, Otis.
Hey. Who am I speaking with?
Maritza. I'm not even sure what the live is about. I just clicked it because it said you invited me. So catch me up, please.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna do one better. What city do you live in?
Orlando.
Orlando. What do you do for a living?
Well, I have a nationwide task and closing service, and I'm also a realtor.
Amen. How you like being a realtor?
So it has its ups and downs, but I obviously love it because I can't get away from it.
Okay. Do you want to get away from it one day, or do you want to be a realtor forever? I'm a real estate broker, so that's why I'm asking.
I like it enough to stay.
Amen.
So I created a side business to feed my real estate career because bills keep coming, right?
Yes. What's the side business?
It's a nationwide task and closing service. So I'll send you a message. I got a couple of things that I'm switching up on the website. As soon as I'm done with all that, I'll send you a message with the link.
Okay.
Since you're a broker, it might be something you may love.
Well, I'm a broker, but I'm a real estate investor first. I don't. I'm a broker because I can represent myself. I'm a broker in Georgia. I'm a broker in California, but I always co-list with somebody else because I'm a real estate investor. And a lot of my students are actually realtors also, and I turn them into investors. They're still realtors, but turn them into investors. Yeah. So Orlando's a pretty. You know what? I'm about to show off with you. I'm about to show off. Do you know how to acquire real estate and pay out of your exit?
Say that again.
Do you know how to acquire real estate and pay out of your exit, which means you acquire the real estate for little to nothing. It's not free. You just pay for it when you're finished doing what you're going to do. You want me to explain it to you?
Please do.
All right. So you're in Orlando. You're driving down the street as we usually do, and you see a property that doesn't want to be kept. Okay. You pull over the car and you're like, man, I bet I can get that for a discount. Now, when we structure deals creatively, there's 4 components to structuring a deal creatively. The first component is assessing the deal. Assessing it makes you, oh, there he is. Assessing the deal, you ask these 4 questions. What does it cost? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? Bruno, come on up, brother. Hold on one second. How much income can it generate? The second component is you take control of it. Taking control of it means, taking control of it means getting your name on that deed before you have to pay for it. Okay. The third component is you got to make it worth more than you bought it for. Go ahead and go on mute because I get a little feedback. You got to make it worth more than you bought it for. And then the last component is you got to exit. You either sell it or you borrow against it, put a tenant in there, and then you go buy another cash flowing asset. So I'm going to give you, what's your first name? Maritza. That's what. So Maritza, let's say you have a house that's worth $200,000, right? It's in a neighborhood where homes are selling for $200,000, but you got some financial trouble and you got to get out of there. All right. So let's say it needs some work and you either don't have or want to spend the money to put into the house. Let's say it needs about $20,000 worth of work that you don't have, but you gotta get out of there. So I say, hey, I'll tell you what, I'll buy your home. I'll put it in offer, you accept it. Okay. Now it's not on the market, right? You could just list it with an agent, right? But I'm going to compensate you for working with me creatively, right? And this is not as uncommon as people think, right? We typically go into like PropStream, REI Pro. We find people that have a problem. We come in, provide a solution, and blah, 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 blah. So this is a typical deal. Now, if I'm buying that house from you, you're a real estate broker. If I'm buying a house for $100,000, how much money I typically have to come in with? Not FHA. It's an investment property.
10% or more.
10% or more, right? What if I don't want to pay private mortgage insurance? How much do I got to come in with?
Private mortgage, I don't know, 20%.
20%. Yeah, I got to come in. Yeah, you're right. So 20%. So 20% of $100,000 is 20 grand. I don't have it. But I say, hey, look, I call you on the phone. I say, hey, look, I appreciate you going into contract with me. I've got a couple other projects. I want to put some money into your property. It'll probably extend our association, right? This relationship for about 60 days, but I can put another $10,000 into your pocket. Is that okay with you? And most people will say yes. Okay. So now we go to number 2, right? We go to component number 2. I got to get my name on that deed before I pay for it. So I tell you, hey, look, I'm going to incorporate a seller financing situation in this. I don't believe in seller financing. I know you don't. I don't want you to seller finance it, but I've got to take what I owe you and evidence it with debt. Okay. That means I need our agreement to be evidenced somewhere. So we have a promissory note. We have a security instrument. And most people know promissory note is evidence of the debt. A security instrument is what attaches the debt to the house. So we put a lien on the house for what I owe you. Okay. Now we walk away from that closing table. I own the house, but now you are my lender on the house until I exit. But because I own the house, I can borrow third-party funds to fix it up. Now, I'm not going to get a mortgage company to give me, that low of an amount, $20,000, but I can get it off my credit cards. I can go to a consumer lending site and get it there. All right. $20,000. But remember, it's in a neighborhood where homes are valued at 200. So now, because I fixed that home up and it's worth 200, well, now I can go get it appraised. And you know how we exit. We do cash out refinance. Cash out refinance, 80% of the value is 160,000. Now you've done deals before. When that new lender wires that $160,000 mortgage into the property, the closing company is going to look to see what liens on the property. And what liens do you think they're going to find? They're going to find that $100,000 that I owe you plus that $10,000. So let's say $110,000 that I owe you. They're going to pay that off first. So just because it's a cash out refinance, I don't get to keep it all. I got to pay the liens off first. So I pay you off with the cash out refinance. Now you're out of the picture. Now I still have $50,000 out of that 160. I can do what I want. But remember, I borrowed 20 grand over here. I got to pay that back. But I still have $30,000. Now this is tax-free money too, because we didn't sell the asset. It's not a taxable event. Now I got $30,000, which would be less because I didn't account points and fees and all that stuff. But just for sake of this conversation, I got 30 grand. I can do what I want. Now I'm left with a house. You've been paid off. I've got a $160,000 mortgage. I got a tenant in there paying the mortgage, and I walk away and go do it again. So let me explain what we just did. We had two scenarios. We had one scenario where I was buying this $100,000 house the traditional way. I needed $20,000 to accomplish it. I had another scenario where I didn't need $20,000 and I made 30 grand on the exit and did the same thing. And I used that concept of structuring deals creatively. I assessed the deal, ran the 4 data points. What is the cost? What is the cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? I needed to make sure that it could be done that way in the first place. That's component 1. I assessed it. Component number 2 is the magic pill. I got to get my name on the deed before I have to pay for it, primarily so I can borrow against it, bring other funds in to do what I need to do or for my cash out, right? I also got to protect you because you don't know me. If you deed that property over to me and I cut you out and just go off to Mexico somewhere, you're stuck. So we have to have evidence of the debt and we have to lien the property in favor of you, the original owner, who I repositioned as the lender. Now, once I did that, I could borrow money to add value, increase the value, leverage it to pay you back, right? Leverage it to pay you back and still walk away with 30 grand on my exit. All right. So when we talk about investing in real estate and investing as a consumer, it's a completely different world. All right. Completely different world. Now that's a basic example of some of the things that we do.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you did creative financing
Mhm.
and you're looking for that other 20,000 and you go and you borrow that from somebody, are there lenders out there that you know of that will lend it to you even if your credit isn't perfect?
No. So let's say, that's a good question. So let's say my credit isn't perfect. My relationships are. So I'll go to mom and dad and said, hey, dad, I heard you guys got that self-directed IRA, right? What are you making on that? Well, we're making about 8% annually. Okay, well, I'll give you 8% simple interest. And I can lien the property. I can do whatever I need to do to make them feel good, right? But I can offer an opportunity for them that outperforms any investment vehicle that they're currently engaged in. So at that point, if my credit wasn't where it needed to be, I would utilize my circle of influence and generate some promissory notes. And when I exited, then I would pay them off the same way I paid the original owner who I repositioned as a lender. Right? Amen.
Hi, Otis. Hi, Otis. How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
I have this 4 unit,
Okay.
right? 4 unit in Chicago, to buy for 260, rehab 120, ARVs 49, 80,000 because I'm only like repairing 3 unit, and the whole 4 units is going to generate 6,100. Mortgage is going to end up being with insurance and all 3,400 to 3,500. And but the problem is it has some code violation. Although I've factored in that 120 in there, to say okay, the $220,000 I'll get that.
Okay.
But the only thing is the the porch kind of have a problem where so it's more like the city might come and say demolish the porch, which would cost me about like another like $40,000 in there.
$40,000 to demo the porch?
Yeah, demo and demolish the porch and get another porch in there. So meaning to do another porch entirely.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at. In that precarious situation, whether it's a deal I should go into or not.
Okay. So and thank you for bringing that to me. So when people ask me what my opinion is on a particular deal, I just need 4 numbers. What does it cost, or what am I willing to pay? If you already own it, it's going to be a different situation. What does it cost, or what am I willing to pay? What does it cost to fix up? What's it going to be worth when I'm done? How much income can it generate? Data point number two is it's possible that data point number two can make your deal no longer a deal, but it's just math, right? What does it cost to fix up? So if I'm going in blind and I want to protect myself, I'll utilize the 70% rule. 70% rule says you take the ARV, what the property is going to be worth when you're done, you calculate 70% of that. Then from that, you subtract what it's going to cost to fix up. Whatever you have left is your maximum offer price. If you can get it for that maximum offer price or below, you're pretty much guaranteed to make a profit. That's the whole purpose of the 70% rule. They call it a rule, it's more of a guideline, right? So does your property qualify under the 70% rule?
Oh, I haven't done that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have to do that then.
Amen. Amen. 4 data points. Folks, the reason that I came up with the 4 data points was out of necessity. I mentor 350 people personally. Some people can get a lot of confidence when we're going through classes and they, let me follow some of y'all back. And they may want to go out there and do something. And as long as they are utilizing these 4 data points, I know that I can protect them from afar because it is going to force them to uncover information they wouldn't have known to ask about. And it's going to keep them from getting into something that they can't get out of. All right. And that's super important to me. All right. I got a reputation. I can't have people out there. My name is attached to all of them. So I need to make sure that these people are turned into real estate investors. All right. So the 4 data points, you can get it on our website, 4datapoints.com. The number 4, DATAPOINTS.com. Excuse me. All right. Thank you for your time. Very thorough for the time I've been on. Amen. Amen. Folks, look, we got to wrap it up. I got to wrap it up. I got my son out there raising himself. Bruno, what's going on, brother? You still with us? Bruno Nascimento.
Yes, sir. You already know.
Hey, man, I was watching you guys as watching you guys as a live stream today. I liked it over 1,000 times. You know that, right? That was me. It wasn't some chick that was trying to get in y'all DMs, right? But super dope, man. Y'all got a good crew down there, man. I'm telling you, that went in real estate. Well, I keep forgetting I'm part of it, right? That's my Southern California family, man. And these fellas down there, I definitely represent for them. These guys are doing it right. And when it comes to working with vets, working with anybody really, but with the amount of vets that they've helped, utilizing that VA loan, not just for buying a home to live in, but for investing in real estate, these guys are killing the game, man. I'm gonna be down there in a couple of weeks, Bruno. We're gonna have to hit one of the wineries and do one of the podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Hey, man, and I gotta hit you up tomorrow, man, just to kind of run through a deal that we're looking at, yeah. And then it's a 70 unit one. Hey, might as well rip the Band-Aid off, man, and just go all in. But so we can.
Hey,
so
yeah.
I gotta rap with you, man.
Yeah. Let's do it, man. Let's do it. Is it value add, or is it already stabilized? Already tenants in there, or what was the
tenants in there? So there are some. It's already stabilized, and I think that's what I'm kind of nervous about, man. Is the it's the fine tuning of it, man. And really, brother, it's the funding. The funding is the part where I'm like, yo, how are we gonna crack this one, right? I'm not sure if we have room for any creative financing just yet, but I just want to kind of go in it, man. Obviously, creative is going to be the go-to.
Yeah.
But I also want to kind of be able to structure, just know some options that we got, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a $4.3 million purchase, and it's a 70 unit.
Okay, so that's a long-term investment. If it's already stabilized, that means I don't know how much meat is on the bones. I'm a value add investor, so I got to make sure to get my money back out that I put in and then maintain the property. So there's probably a few things that we're going to have to look at. At 70 units, at 4.3, there's gonna be some money. There's gonna be some money that is stuck, that's gonna have to stay in that deal long term. Who's gonna manage it?
Well, we are gonna see.
Yeah. No, all that, man. That's look, I could do that in my sleep. That's 70 units. I can do that in my sleep. Let's talk, man. And we'll get into all of the things that you need to look at, the things that people typically don't look at that come back to bite them. All right. Is it master metered or sub metered? Like, does it have 1 meter for all the utilities, or is it sub?
So I don't know yet, man. So I mean, it's like we are super early on. You know what I mean? And I think right now we're just at the point where we just kind of stumbled across that property,
Okay.
right? I haven't, man. Like I don't know much else besides like location, the the asking price,
Yeah.
how many units it has. So I haven't even started, to even crack that nut, man.
Okay.
But I mean, initially, first thing for me was like, okay, well, shit, let's talk about the numbers just to see what the options are for us to, to kind of go in on it.
Yeah.
And, but it's one that I've been looking at, with Ian and Tony too, man. So yeah, I definitely got to hit you up about it, bro.
Yeah. Let's look at it. So I get excited about, bro. That's my multifamily converter. That's my DNA. I was in that. That's my go-to. And if you in it with some assassins too. So I got y'all. We'll look at it. I'll give you some things to look at that they typically. Is it listed on the open market right now?
It is, yeah.
Okay. So secret's already out. So if it's you're gonna have to leave some money in there. The conversation is gonna be, is the return worth the capital that you guys are leaving in there? That's gonna be what the conversation is. Because if it's already stabilized, then how much room is there to add value, right? So typically they'll leave a little bit of room in there so you can raise rents, increase value a little bit, but why haven't they raised rents? Like so there's a lot of, let's talk about tomorrow, man. I can't wait to dig into that. That's what's up.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, folks. Is that Tavares Garrett? Is that James? Are you still James? You keep coming in and out. Are you where James at? James is in Medellin, Colombia. I'm about to put a trip together for Medellin. I'm about to stop this live stream. You know what? Hey, Instagram. I'm gonna stay on TikTok for a little bit, but Instagram. I appreciate y'all. Y'all know how to reach out to me. I got a workshop April 12th. We're going over all the do's and don'ts of real estate investing. About 90 minutes. And folks on Facebook, appreciate you guys, YouTube and everywhere else. So I gotta play this corny music real quick. It's just a part of my